Hi, everybody. I'm in the Shields Carter room, and Joe Omasagi is also here. And if you don't mind signing into the chat and adding your agency affiliation, that's super helpful for us for the minutes. When more people are here, I'll put the board packet into the chat for anyone who doesn't have that link. And we don't quite have a quorum yet. So when we have one more board member, Joe, as vice president, can start the meeting.
Okay.
Hi, we have a quorum now, so you can start the meeting, and Stephanie is also here to do the roll call.
Excellent. So I will call to order the Champaign County Mental Health Board meeting of Wednesday, July 20th, 2022. Stephanie, can you do roll call?
Matt Hausman.
Here.
Daphne Maurer. Alexa McCoy. Elaine Palencia.
Here.
Kyle Patterson. Jane Sprandel.
Here.
Joe Omosagie.
Here.
John Paul Joachim.
Here. Sorry, I was on mute. I didn't realize that there. Do I need to have a motion to approve the agenda?
Yeah,
Okay. So I'll move to approve the agenda as listed. Do I have a second?
I'll
Yes,
second.
Roll call.
Elaine Valencia,
Yes.
Jane Sprandal,
Yes.
Joe Omosage,
Yes.
Matt Hausman,
Yes.
John Paul Joachim.
Yes. So next is the citizen input and public participation. If there's anyone from the public that would like to speak, now is the time. Is there any hands up? I don't think I see any. All right, seeing no hands up, we'll move on to the president's comments. So this is obviously my first meeting for the Mental Health Board as president. I'll try to keep it short, but obviously, the goal for us is as the Mental Health Board is to make sure we, fund agencies that will provide, mental health support and substance abuse support for our members of the community. The last 2 years obviously have been very stressful and trying for a lot of people in the community. A lot of resources have, been strained, and a lot of people's support systems have been, reduced. Obviously, we're coming out of a pandemic, but it looks like we are in a recession or heading towards a recession. So that is also going to put a lot of strain on people. A lot of people are going to have less resources with their finding jobs and then being able to pay for their homes with increasing housing costs and increasing food prices, and then being able to access healthcare resources is going to be very difficult for them too. So we may see an increase in the need for the resources in the community. Obviously, we already saw that increase during the pandemic. It's just going to kind of be more, but a little in a different way for different reasons. So that being said, we'll move on to Executive Director Lynn's comments.
Thank you. I don't have a lot. I like this board meeting because if things work out a certain way, then it's a nice point to say, we did a good job in the spring. We got through a lot of material and some tough decisions and, contracted for a lot of money. So this is a nice point of reflection. And so most of the items in this agenda are for discussion and review. And if you don't feel moved to talk about them or give us input today, this is great stuff to email us, myself and the rest of the team, your thoughts on. After the 2 action items at the top, everything is just for feedback. And the SCILA fund priorities have already been shared to community members who may have an interest, and we've already started getting feedback. So that is kind of a fun process. Anyway, I want to keep it short, so I will stop there unless there's something I should speak to.
All right. So next is the approval of the CCMHB minutes on page 4 through 9 from June 22nd. Do I have, we can have everyone take a look at it and see if there's any comments. And then if not, a motion to approve the minutes.
Do you want me to stop showing it?
No, you can keep showing it. Is anyone want to move to approve the minutes?
Yes, I will move to approve the minutes of the June meeting.
Do I hear a second? I think Joe seconded it there. Can we have a roll call?
Elaine Valencia,
Yes.
Kyle Patterson, Kyle Patterson,
Yes.
Jane Sprandel,
Yes.
Joe Amosagie,
Yes.
Matt Hausman,
Yes.
Alexa McCoy,
Yes.
John Paul Yoakim,
Yes. Oh, sorry, I just have a few questions, Lynn, about the expenditures. I didn't know, who is Allison Boot someone we've used in the past for the Expo consulting?
She's been doing public relations, like all of the social media for the last few years. And this year, Allison and her husband have taken over the Expo coordination. They're getting a little bit of support from the previous coordinators too, but they're doing a lot this year. Just every challenge that you could imagine has come up. So yeah. So we have worked with her, but she has not been in this capacity until this year.
Okay, cool. Good to know. And then I see that there was a lot of office technology expenditures for like support tickets and things like that. Can you just go over what those kind of things were? And if that's typical or?
It is typical these days. We just processed more bills this week, so those are in my mind. We canceled Rackspace email that we've been using for 20 years and moved over to fully to Office 365. The transition to Office 365 has been harder than expected, and Outlook, one theory, I hate Microsoft products, so I just like to say some of what's happening could have been predicted because Microsoft products are so difficult to work with. But a lot of it is about us having this transition from one IT provider to a different one who set up all our computers in different ways. And so one person, for example, had 3 Office accounts. And so that meant like a really high duplication of files, very difficult to find documents. So a lot of these support tickets are helping us get our materials organized better and eliminate old accounts. Install Capture Capture Client is how they can work on our computers remotely. So they had to install Capture Client on each one. So we've had a few bills for that. And I can't tell what the other support tickets were for, but it's like the ones this week were my password suddenly didn't work on the day when I had to put these board packets together. So I couldn't get into any documents at all. And I called them at 8 and it was an emergency. That's not one of these, but it's been that type of thing. I really hope that it settles down as we get, like, for one thing, it's us learning the products, but it's also like now that it's organized, we shouldn't need all this extra help. So fingers crossed.
Sounds good. All right. Did anyone have any other comments? And then seeing no comments, do I have anyone that moves to approve the vendor invoice list?
Okay, I'll move to approve the vendors invoice list.
I'll
I'll
second.
second.
I think Jane got there first, so Jane will
Okay.
second the motion. Can I have a roll call?
Kyle Patterson,
Yes.
Jane Sprandall,
Yes.
Joe Omosagie,
Yes.
Matt Hausman,
Yes.
Alexa McCoy,
Yes.
Elaine Palencia,
Yes.
John Paul Joachim.
Yes. All right. Next on the list is new business. Pages 14 through 24, which is setting the stage for fiscal year 2023 and year 2024. So I don't know if Lynn, you wanted to go over that.
So this is, I don't know if this is helpful to you, but it's so helpful to me to put it all together, where we're at. We have a summary here of the new 3-year plan goals and the well, there's 9 objectives. It doesn't list them. But these are the new 3-year plan goals. And then here's the link to the whole thing. And then the current year priority categories. And under each of these, I listed the agencies that we started funding contracts July 1st related to each priority category with a subtotal under the priority. And that actually helps me a lot next year. So let's see. So that goes through all the priorities. And then the last part is this year we are reflecting quite a bit on the application process and the forms. We had an intern who is a PhD English student who took a look at our application instructions. I thought, if she doesn't get it, then, right, like, so she gave me some really helpful ideas for reorganizing the document. The rest of the team and I are going through and changing the writing a little bit to make it less repetitive, a little shorter, add pictures, because that turned out to be helpful. But also, we think it's time to make some more major changes to the system. So we got input from some agencies who don't have a lot of trouble with it. We thought, wouldn't it be interesting to see what people who make it all the way through the process have to say? And they had a lot to say. So we're working with the developer of the system on costing out some of the changes that came up most often. And some of the changes are free. It's just me taking the time to do it. But here's their input. And then later under suggested actions, we're talking about, we'll bring you a draft 3-year plan or it's the same 3-year plan, but with draft objectives for next year. We'll bring you that in September. New priorities maybe in September, but I think probably October because of the next agenda item. And then changes to the application system I'm working on right now, because it does take a long time to implement those and test them. Every change creates a risk for an error we weren't thinking about. So then this is a draft of the revisions we'd like to make to that this is the first form in the application process, and it's the hardest one. And I incorporated almost all the input we got from agency users. So this was kind of exciting. I don't know why, but it was to me. So anyway, the whole thing is for your reactions, especially the 3-year plan objectives and the priorities, because that is all like, we change it, we work on it every year, we change it every year. The more input, the better. So.
I mean, I will say, like, reading through this, I was excited on page 21 to see the revisions or the suggestions from the experienced agency users you referenced in there about things that we can do to improve. Obviously, it's always great when we can make technology more user-friendly, because it can be overwhelming, especially for new agencies that haven't gone through the process before, especially if they're smaller too, and they haven't done this with other applications in the past. One of the other things I was wondering is, do the answers save in the system for them to look back at previous applications they put in? That's good to know. obviously that may make it easier going forward because then they can look back at their numbers and compare and then just update the answers as needed so they don't have to rewrite everything, especially if their goals and missions haven't changed, which hopefully they usually won't if they're doing the same program each year and doing not having to make adjustments. So this is great. So hopefully we'll see agencies appreciate any improvements we make, and hopefully we'll have less technical issues in the future.
I think around this issue that you've brought up, being able to look at two forms at once or historical data, it's absolutely possible, but it's not as easy as it could be because you can't open multiple windows in the system. So what I do is I have two computers, or I'm using two different browsers on one computer, or I'm printing things. So the problem with like an upgrade on that feature could be super expensive. But we have heard from people that, yes, it's all there, all the data are there, but they're not as easy to work with as it sounds. Oh, then do y'all want to talk about this more, or do you want to move on?
Seeing no other discussion, we could move on to the summaries of the 2020 year funded programs from page 25 to 35.
Because I love this thing. I know it's a lot of pages, but this is something Kim Bowdry and Leon Bryson put together. And it's so useful if you need to email somebody, if whoever, member of the public or an elected official wants to know what we're funding. If you got access to this either through the link or you've got it, the electronic version saved on your computer, it's just like that. So easy. So we keep doing it.
Yeah, I want to thank you for this because it's very helpful. I was thinking maybe I should just pull out these pages and keep them on my desk for when I suddenly wonder about something. But, I really like this.
I have to agree with Elaine. It's very concise, which is nice, especially for my brain when I see like long booklets of things I have to read. This is very easy. What do I need to know? Why do I need to know it?
Yeah.
Which is excellent.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
So it's posted on the application website, public page, and on the mental health board page of the county's website. So that people might find it there too, but the easiest thing is if you email and say, I need that, and I'll just send it to you.
I was thinking during the application process, I feel like we get this like a little synopsis initially with our applications, and then we have the larger application. But it's nice seeing this all together. All right. If there's no other comments or discussion, we can move on to the 2023 SILA fund priorities and timeline.
I must admit it hurt to put the timeline in there. Because I thought, oh gosh, we're gonna be looking at applications all year round. But these projects are so specific and probably not a lot of organizations are interested or able to do them. So I don't think it's gonna be overwhelming like the normal allocation cycle.
I have a question about the process. Suppose somebody gets funding for something. Does the money go to an agency that they're working to, or it does not go individually to the person? So then does the agency say, order the walker or whatever? Okay. And then is there and then there's a follow-up or there's some kind of acknowledgement there that that has happened and the person has what they need. So that's up to the agencies to keep track of all of that.
So
Right.
we would sure want that kind of information in the form of a report.
Mhm. Okay.
Maybe we would only ask for 2 reports instead of 4
Yeah.
during the year. But when we did this, we sort of experimented with an idea like this in 2019 through 2021.
Mhm.
We
So-
thought it'd be done in 2019, but it took a lot of extra time because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
But we learned, you know, that there is a fair amount of staff time involved in just administering something like this.
Yeah, okay. I just was concerned about the flow of money, just I didn't see that on the page and just how that happens. So that's a nice, you know, orderly and tight process.
One of the comments or one of the things on page 43 at the top, it says waivers of each requirement would allow them each to offer incentive payments to DSPs, stabilizing the workforce which serves county residents who have qualifying disabilities, for trying to find ways to strengthening the DSP workforce. So that is that a recommendation that we waive that DSPs, like they might meet the requirements, but be a for-profit company without community advisory board. So are you advising that we waive that they don't need those things?
Well, I think you would do that as part of the contract decision. Because there is a large for-profit organization that employs DSPs that serve people in Champaign County. So there is one, if they were to apply, they're not eligible because they don't have a community advisory board. So we could negotiate that. We could say, set up a community advisory board, just do it. Or they could say, we don't have the bandwidth to do that, give us a waiver of that requirement. So I'm suggesting that should be an option. There's also an organization with no board members who are residents of Champaign County, but they're a nonprofit, and they have DSPs who are serving Champaign County residents. So
But they have board members, but they're just not.
they're not Champaign County residents, which makes them not eligible.
Mhm.
So it's, yeah.
So the reason we can do that is because it's kind of a pass-through. It's not really money to that agency, right?
I think you can waive requirements.
But I need a reason.
You
I
can
need a
waive requirements as you choose.
Uh-huh.
And what I'm suggesting is that the risk associated with waiving just one requirement for each of these could be really low because it's a special initiative.
Mhm.
And because this is not like revenue they can count on forever. This would be for a really specific purpose. And like you said, Elaine, we can clarify that we mean it as a pass-through.
Okay.
If that's desirable, or that could be a contract negotiation point if we don't get an application like that, but that's what you want, you know?
Like we
Yeah.
want the money to fund specifically the DSPs so we can get support for our residents in the county. And this money is not to go to anything else other than employing those people.
Yeah.
If that's what you choose to do, I think this is, you know, we did put into the most recent funding requirements document that the contract could waive certain requirements. So this would be an example of doing that. Like it's a contract that waives a requirement that we would normally want to keep. So yeah, and I think you could say the money needs to go to the DSPs and no one else, or it's not for a car, which you know, that was actually a compelling need a couple years ago for an organization not based in Champaign County, but serving our residents. They needed a van, but we couldn't fund them because they don't have any board members in Champaign County and they didn't want to do that.
And then the question is, or a question I have is, if we do fund them to employ people, do they have to pay them the rates of like Medicaid?
Yes. So we would not be paying salaries in order to avoid Medicaid supplementation, because to be a DSP, these are for DSPs and SILAs or the day program, Medicaid waiver programs. So we can't supplement their salaries per se, but we can find ways to give them incentive payments that probably don't constitute supplementation, even if it does. A lot of communities are having to do this. So we've
Even if we do
covered the crowd, yeah.
even if we do give them a waiver, it seems like it's still going to be very difficult for those agencies to employ the DSPs because of that limitation. So hopefully other incentives that we do provide to encourage DSPs to work, for people to be DSPs might hopefully fill the need. Is the for-profit, are they the main person in the area that serves community members? Or are there several other nonprofit organizations in the area that we have access to? Okay.
Yeah. I think Kim Bowdry may be able to correct me on this, but I think Developmental Services Center, or DSC is their name now, has the most DSPs in the county, and then this for-profit serves a larger region, and I think they have probably quite a few, but not as much as DSC.
So would you think that it would probably be easier and probably better to, I mean, obviously like the problem that the for-profit's going to have is probably the same problem that DSC has with employing DSPs. So, which is probably having some kind of other incentive to help give them more of a reason to work because of the low rate that they have to be paid, unfortunately.
I think that you're right. The permanent fix is not with counties. The permanent fix is a state and federal one.
Yeah.
But for now, just a temporary fix. We also want to be really careful to avoid a starting bonus war. That
Yeah.
has happened here with law enforcement organizations offering starting bonuses. They like people going back and forth. We don't want to do that at all. DSC has a new contract starting July 1st to do this. So they're set, and it also creates a really nice model. So we could treat this as kind of like an expansion of that to cover the other organizations that employ DSPs. If they choose. Yeah.
Excellent. And I just thought it was interesting on page 38 that you said nearly 3 in 10 providers report spending at least $500,000 annually on costs associated with high turnover and vacancy rates, which it's just so ironic that, you know, we talk about trying to save money and be frugal, and at the same time, if you don't pay good workers well, you're going to end up spending more money in the long run instead of trying to be, cost cutting or saving in the short term. So obviously retention is key in having a good workforce, but 2, also being financially frugal and wise. So hopefully.
I don't want to get on a soapbox, but
Do it.
if you pay your employees, you will keep your employees. If you don't pay them, they'll find someone else.
And to be honest, one of the core competencies of DSPs is keeping people safe. Like it's not as exciting as some of the other things that they do, but that's a really important one. And it's very hard for them to keep people safe if they're understaffed and covering multiple shifts, or a shift is not adequately covered. So that's just the bare minimum that we could ensure. So I don't know that any of these strategies we're proposing here are strong enough to counter the current situation. But we keep advocating too with the state and federal, so.
Well, definitely it's appreciated. Anyone else have any other comments?
I think there's a comment in the chat.
Yep, I agree.
That's a great comment. Yes.
I mean, you can work in a stressful field, but if you have a good leadership and a good team, it can make a hard job feel fun. And if you work in an easy field, like an easier field, but you don't have good leadership, it can make an easy job feel like it's, you know, daunting and very stressful.
So that's another thing, another special project that might be eligible through this fund would be maybe some support or training for new leadership to, because that's an element and that does come up in these surveys, that supervision is one of the biggest issues in this field, so.
Do you think agencies would be open to that? I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask, right? We could always ask, and we can always offer, you know.
And we can do things like that through, you know, we have a monthly learning opportunity workshop that Kim Bowdry manages. That's usually, it's the focus is case managers, but we could develop something similar to that for leadership staff or supervisors if needed.
Because it said there was a high turnover, obviously, with DSPs, but it didn't. I don't think it mentioned about leadership, what the turnover was, if it's also high.
I think we're just starting to see the impact of that.
I think it depends on the level of leadership. I mean, at the top level, leadership turnover is minimal, but I think middle management is where you probably will get a lot more turnover in leadership. And I think if we can focus some of the training on that middle management, that will keep the levels hopefully fully staffed and well staffed.
I think Patty Walters had her hand up.
Hi there. I just wanted to share that today, actually, there was a frontline supervisor training in Champaign for area agencies similar to DSC through the NADSP, which is the National Association for Direct Support Professionals, through the State Association, IR. We had 4 from DSC attend this round. There was one a few months ago where we had a few people attend, and there's going to be one more in the fall, which hopefully will have all of our frontline supervisors trained through that process. NADSP was written into the grant that Lynn referenced earlier. We will become members here in the coming days and setting up some training, 3 trainings this year and the following year. And those are yet to be identified, but just recognizing that professional development and, you know, trying to get that classification for DSPs to be recognized as, you know, a category through DOL. DOL is significant. So this, you know, this grant that you're proposing and opening up, and along with the workforce retention one that we just got, you know, we're hopeful that in addition to some bonuses that, you know, just having it, that mid-manager training, sometimes you promote people that are great at what they do, and that transition isn't always good because the skill set's different, but also recognizing that, you know, sometimes people leave their jobs because of supervision. And because we've been, especially in the last, you know, 3 years, so in such a crisis with COVID and with the workforce shortage. And in fact, today they described it as it's not a crisis, it's a kind of a catastrophe. It's not temporary. That you know, trying to get people to invest in professional development is a way for people to maybe with that retention piece that they feel when money can't solve the problem, that balancing, work-life balance, making sure people are armed with the tools that they need and are supportive to the people that work for them. But I think there's some really good focus on that midline and frontline supervisors, just consistent with what John's saying. So we're excited about that.
Thank you for that information. Be excited to see how that progresses.
I'm trying to lower my hand and it disappears every time I got it.
All right. Are there any other comments or questions? All right. We can move on to the next agenda item, which is old business. Do we have any old business, Lynn?
I didn't do a great job of proofreading this agenda. We don't have any old.
I didn't think so. I just wanted to make sure.
Oh, sorry.
And then the next thing would be schedules and allocation process timelines. So you can just see the schedule there.
So
Oh,
this,
oh, go ahead. I was gonna say I did like the mini grant survey, by the way. It just seems like it's very easy to read and answer and fill out.
again, credit to Kim Bowdry. This allocation schedule does not have those dates that we will add for a SILA process. But I did update it today. It's gonna be a busy fall.
All right. And then, yeah, I guess the next item would be agency input. Are there any agencies that would like to make any comments? I don't see any hands up. Let me see, there's something in the chat. Oh, okay, yeah. And then seeing no hands up, we'll go on to the CCDDB input. Is there any input that you would like to mention, Lynn, or anyone from CCDDB here?
They met this morning and had discussed very similar agenda items, plus they elected officers for the next year. And afterwards, after that, some of them went to, well, one of them went to the expo meeting with us. So that was nice to see a DD board member at the expo again. Yay. But that's, yeah, they'd also decided not to have the August meeting. So they're on the same schedule as you. The next meeting will be September. Y'all have a study session also in September. And I can see some potential for maybe turning that into a joint board meeting if we need to have more time to consider things like the SILA priorities.
Excellent. So the next item is staff reports. I did like Chris's staff report, just very, objective, very financial. It was just really easy read.
So I know it's a little tough because they put minuses in front of revenue, but Chris tried all kinds of different presentations of these data in the new accounting system. It is a difficult system to use. So this is what he landed on as probably the most logical. So, bear with us that there are minuses where you would expect positive, so.
I think that was still easy to read that. Yeah. So, the one thing I was reading was Stephanie's about, coordinating with the artists for the Disability Expo. So I'm really excited to see that. I really hope that, I know COVID is increasing in the community, but hopefully hospitalizations stay low enough that we're able to have this. Obviously, people are at higher risk in that have disabilities. So obviously there probably is some concerns there, but I think with ICU levels being very low right now and people in the hospital just being on the general floor with, symptoms that are manageable at this time and there's treatment options at this time, I think hopefully I see this going forward in October. So I'm excited to see how this how this turns out, since I know we haven't been able to have an in-person one for a while because of the pandemic. Have you had any concerns, Lynn, from people working on the expo about?
Yes. You have a very active member of the steering committee on the board who attended this meeting. And I think when you get to board reports, which is next, she will probably fill you in completely. I did put into the chat a copy of that that summary of all the funded programs, that spreadsheet, for anyone to take out of the chat. So anyway, yes, there's a lot going on. So thank you for asking.
All right. If there's any other comments or questions about the staff reports. All right, seeing none, then we'll go on to the board-to-board reports. Anyone want to report on that?
I will be happy to report on the Disabilities Expo. So first of all, Allison and Dylan have done a fantastic job trying to weather these mini hurricanes, because these aren't even storms anymore. So a couple of months ago, I think we discussed how original date of October 15th, we realized was homecoming. There was discussion of moving it to October 1st, same day as the Up Center's Pride Fest parade and all that. We thought that was a go. We have since ran into some problems with location, pipe and drape, it potentially being a conflict of interest a little bit, just because we're drawing from the same volunteer pool and some of the same attendees of the Up Center. So we've decided we're swaying away from October 1st, which puts us back at potentially October 15th. There's been talk of, what about a couple of dates in November? What if we did April? What if we waited a year? So again, anyone who's been on this board or a agency who comes to these meetings knows that I'm pretty outspoken. From the very beginning, we were like, April cannot work. Our staff is so busy helping with these grants and things like that. April's really off the table. And I think that went well today. Lynn kind of, voiced it, and then I said, yeah, it's too much in April. So at this time, we do not have a date. We do not have a location. We do not have pipe and drape, but we have a lot of people who want to make this work. So potentially by the end of the week, we're hoping to hear back from the Vineyard Church. We would like to move forward, hopefully at Vineyard Church on October 15th. Potentially do not do any pipe and drape, which would be a cost savings, but that's not necessarily why we're doing it. But whenever I can save money, especially even if it's county's money, I'm happy about that. So, but this still one of the biggest gray clouds in the sky. And sometimes I don't think everybody hears or wants to accept. Lynn and I, Kim has voiced it. We have to have volunteers. And today, Lynn, pretty much said, hey, of all of us on this call, how many of you are able to commit to 1 to 3 days to help on this? We have set up on Friday, Saturday, the event. Monday would be pickup if we were to use like pipe and drape, but we still have items that we have to load into our rental unit. And there was an astonishing number of people who were not going to potentially be able to volunteer 3, 2, or maybe even 1 day. So again, I feel like sometimes a broken record. It takes a lot of Indians to run the village. So once we get a date, a time, a location, all that, I'm really going to ask people if you could spare even, a few hours, whether it be, hey, I'll be part of the takedown crew because my kids are done playing soccer on Saturday. I could take down tables. we're going to take and work with anyone's schedule. So it's been a little nerve wracking. I listened to another village. I listened to their Zoom meeting the other day, and a comment was made about people on these committees. They're on them because of their specialties. And, you know, there was a conversation about like lawyers and bankers and things like that. And, you know, I come with, you know, business sales and marketing. And so sometimes I think I might overstep, but, you know, poor Allison and Dylan, they've had the runaround on some vendors. And I pretty much today told them, do not accept that. Within 48 hours, they should have a proposal in your hand. It's not that difficult. So hopefully we're getting somewhere. There's still a ton of interest. We feel like this is still a great thing for our community. I think down the road, we'd like to maybe see partnering with a novel idea like the U of I or something. And, you know, we totally want to continue this for our community, but we're not sure if we're still the wheelhouse who should be putting on this event. So sorry I said a lot, but that's our update.
Thank you very much, Jane. I obviously you guys have done a lot of work, you know, to make this possible. So it is greatly appreciated. The community definitely greatly appreciates this. I know a lot of people that, you know, really want this to happen, but it doesn't just happen. So it is appreciated. One question I did have was, if it was on the 15th, was it a concern that the main concern would be that you would not have as many volunteers because people would be going to homecoming?
One of the concerns is we like to use a lot of the student groups. And if it is homecoming, they may choose to like go to the game, but also, you know, if we use, say, sororities or something, oftentimes at homecoming, they have different events for their alumni. So that could affect some of our volunteer pool. Someone had reached out to the APO or something, and they didn't think it would be a big problem. So maybe it won't be too bad. So a little bit with volunteers, a little bit of concern with traffic, but I don't know. I just had put my opinion out there and I said that was nonsense. A little talk about, will there be enough hotel rooms? We only have a handful of our vendors who maybe travel in from out of state. So we don't think that that would be a huge hardship for them to get rooms, because we don't really use a lot of rooms. So someone said, could we maybe, you know, request a block of rooms somewhere? You know, I didn't say a whole lot. Yes, you probably could, but they're still going to pay that. It's game day weekend rate. So it's not going to be the $89 a night. It might be $389 a night or whatever. Cause you know, there's no markup in this town, but yeah, there is markup in this town.
Mhm. Well, thank you. Yeah, hopefully we can figure it out, but yeah, obviously if there was an easy answer, you would have already had that answer. So it seems like it's going to be a creative answer. Yeah. All right. Any other board-to-board announcements or reports? All right. You know, it's 6:37, so it's nice to finish early. I don't mind that if people don't have any other comments or questions. I guess I did board-to-board reports. I guess I didn't say, is there any board announcements? I don't think so. Seeing none, so I guess we'll go to adjournment. So I guess if there's nothing else, I'll move to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Well, happy Wednesday, everybody. Hope you enjoy the weather. Hopefully I haven't been outside other than just in the morning. I know it's pretty hot, so hopefully it's cooled off now. All right. We'll see you guys in September. Enjoy August.
Hey, take care.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.